It started with a whisper, and now it's exploded into the kind of scandal you thought only happened in late-night reality show marathons. Mendeecees Harris has just dropped a bombshell so wild, so jaw-droppingly messy, that fans are still picking their jaws up off the floor. According to him, Kirk and Kendra, yes, that Kendra who's been circling around the love and hip-hop universe like a moth to a flame, have been hiding a massive secret from the world. Not a fling, not a situationship. We're talking a full-blown, behind-closed-doors marriage. No cameras, no press releases, no save-the-date posts, just a hush-hush union sealed away from the public eye. Until now, sources close to the crew are saying Mendeecees didn't just casually mention it, he exposed it in the most public, no-going-back way possible, hinting that this so-called marriage has been going on for much longer than anyone suspected. And the way he told it, let's just say he didn't exactly paint Kirk and Kendra as the happy, wholesome couple they probably wanted people to believe in. If anything, his words dripped with accusations suggesting manipulation, backroom deals, and a betrayal that might ripple through the entire cast. Fans are already in meltdown mode. Twitter's ablaze with conspiracy threads, Instagram is flooded with shady memes, and the comment sections are like war zones, half the people screaming receipts or it didn't happen, and the other half swearing they always knew something shady was going on. Even the other cast members are allegedly blowing up each other's phones, demanding to know who knew what and for how long. But here's the kicker, Mendeecees didn't just leave it at the "they're secretly married" headline. He hinted there's way more to the story. Affairs, power plays, a connection that could explain years of strange behavior on and off set. And if what he's claiming turns out to be true, this won't just be another love and hip-hop scandal. It could be the one that blows the whole thing apart. So, is this the ultimate betrayal? Or the ultimate cover-up? Buckle up, because what you're about to hear will make you question everything you thought you knew about Kirk, Kendra, and the people who swore they were telling the truth. Mendeecees hadn't planned on dropping the bomb that night, at least. That's what he claimed later, but anyone who was there at that little after-party in Atlanta swears they could see it brewing in his eyes. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife, and the music wasn't loud enough to drown out the whispers that had been swirling for weeks. Kirk was there, leaning against the bar like he owned the place, flashing that casual smirk that always seemed to rub people the wrong way. And Kendra? She was across the room, sipping on something in a tall glass, pretending to laugh at Scrappy's jokes but glancing at Kirk just a little too often. Mendeecees clocked it immediately, the quick looks, the unspoken connection, the kind of silent communication that didn't belong to two people who were just friends. It started with a little jab. "Yo, Kirk," Mendeecees said loud enough for half the room to hear, "you ain't gonna introduce your wife?" The word hung in the air like a bad smell. At first, people thought it was a joke, some light shade between friends, but Kirk's reaction told another story. His smirk faltered, just for a split second, before he forced a laugh and shot back, "Man, you crazy." But Mendeecees didn't laugh. He just sipped his drink slowly, eyes locked on Kirk, letting the tension sink into everyone's bones. Kendra's face went pale. She set her drink down and shifted uncomfortably, trying to wave it off. But by then, the whispers had already started. People circled closer, pretending to dance or grab a refill. But really, they wanted to catch every word. Mendeecees leaned in like he was about to spill something meant for Kirk's ears only, and then he said it loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "So y'all just gonna keep playing the game like y'all ain't been hitched for a minute now?" "That's crazy." Gasps. Actual gasps. You'd think someone had announced the show was getting cancelled mid-season. Someone in the corner muttered, "Wait, what?" While another voice, sharp with disbelief, said, "Nah, he's lying. He's gotta be lying." But Mendeecees didn't stop there. He claimed he'd been holding onto this information for months, watching them sneak around sets, catching them slipping up in private conversations. "Y'all really thought nobody noticed?" he said, his voice rising with that mix of anger and satisfaction that only comes from finally saying something you've been dying to get off your chest. He went on about a secret courthouse wedding, no rings in public, and a tight circle of just 3 people who supposedly knew. He claimed even their closest friends were kept in the dark, which, according to him, was the biggest betrayal of all. Kirk, now visibly uncomfortable, stepped forward, hands up like he was calming a crowd. "Man, don't believe this," he said, scanning the room. "He's drunk, talking crazy." But his voice didn't have that usual steady swagger. It wavered, just enough for people to notice. "And Kendra?" She tried to laugh it off, but her eyes kept darting toward the exit, like she was planning her escape. That alone had people side-eyeing her hard. In the middle of the chaos, Sierra slipped in, clearly curious. "What's going on?" she whispered to Rashida, who was already looking like she wanted to strangle Kirk. Rashida's expression said it all, that mixture of shock, confusion, and a slow, creeping rage. "He's saying they married," she hissed, jerking her chin toward Kirk and Kendra. Sierra's eyes went wide. "Wait, married? Rashida just nodded once, sharply. "That's what he's saying." The room had shifted by. Now the music felt like background noise, just a faint beat beneath the rising tide of drama. Phones were coming out. Instagram lives were popping up. People were recording, half hiding their screens, but not enough to miss the action. And then Mendeecees added another layer to the story. Not only were Kirk and Kendra married, but the timing of it, the exact date, overlapped with one of Kirk's roughest patches with Rashida. He painted the picture like it was a chess move, a calculated decision made when Kirk's public image needed a distraction. "You really thought this was just about love?" Mendeecees said, shaking his head. "Nah, this was about power, about keeping certain deals locked in." He didn't name names, but he didn't have to. The implication hung heavy, and everyone could fill in the blanks. That's when the shouting started, not from Kirk, but from Kendra. "You don't know what you're talking about," she snapped, stepping forward, her voice cracking just slightly. "You think you know, but you don't. So keep my name out your mouth." But the damage was done. Every denial sounded like confirmation, every shaky laugh like a confession. Kirk's attempts to defuse the situation were failing miserably, especially when Mendeecees turned to Rashida and said, "Ask him. Go ahead. Look him in the eye and ask him if he's ever called her his wife in private." The silence that followed was deafening. Even the DJ, sensing the shift, let the track fade into awkward quiet. Rashida's eyes were locked on Kirk's, and for a moment it looked like the whole room stopped breathing. "Well?" she said finally, her voice slow but carrying across the space. Kirk swallowed hard, then forced out, "This is ridiculous." But he didn't say no, and that tiny omission was all it took for the crowd to explode into chatter again. People were piecing together old rumors, matching them with moments they'd seen on set, at events, in Instagram stories. The puzzle pieces were starting to fit, and the picture they formed was not a flattering one. By the time security started easing people apart, the atmosphere was electric. This wasn't just a random accusation tossed out for shock value. This felt like the start of something much bigger. Even those who didn't believe Mendeecees were buzzing with curiosity, waiting for the next move. Kirk had retreated toward the back, pulling Kendra along with him, their faces tight and voices low. Rashida stayed planted where she was, arms crossed, eyes cold, like she was calculating her next move. And through it all, Mendeecees just stood there, drink in hand, looking like a man who knew he'd just lit a match in a room full of gasoline. "Y'all wanted the truth," he said over his shoulder as he walked away. "Don't get mad at me for giving it to you." The murmurs followed him out, and within minutes, the story was already spreading beyond the walls, from text threads to blogs, ready to explode by morning. What no one knew yet was that this was just the first crack in the dam. The real flood was still coming. If part 1 was the spark, part 2 was the wildfire, because by the next morning, the whole city was talking about it. Blogs had already run with the headline, "Mendeecees exposes Kirk and Kendra's secret marriage," in bold, all-caps letters, plastered next to blurry screenshots from the party. Someone had caught that exact moment Kirk's smirk slipped, and another had zoomed in on Kendra's pale, uneasy face. The clips were making rounds on Instagram, TikTok, even Twitter Spaces, where fans gathered to trade insider info. But the craziest part, it wasn't just fans. Other cast members were now chiming in, throwing their own little bombs into the mix. Scrappy went live on Instagram that morning, trying to keep it light but clearly enjoying the drama. "Man, y'all know Mendeecees be talking," he said, with a grin, but then he added, "But sometimes, he don't be wrong." That alone had the comments section melting down. One viewer typed, "So is he confirming it?" While another wrote, "This is the love and hip-hop Avengers level crossover I've been waiting for." Meanwhile, Rashida was silent. Completely silent. She didn't post a selfie, didn't share a quote, didn't even update her story. And for Rashida, that silence spoke volumes. The fan pages started speculating that she was either plotting her public clapback or already in deep conversations with producers about how to handle this on camera. Either way, her absence from the online chaos made people even more certain there was truth to Mendeecees' claims. Behind the scenes, things were even messier. Sources said that Kendra had been blowing up Kirk's phone all morning, furious that he hadn't shut Mendeecees down harder. "You just stood there," she allegedly yelled during one of their calls. "You let him make me look like a liar in front of everybody." Kirk, on the other hand, was trying to calm her down, saying, "If we feed into it, it'll just keep growing." But the damage was already done, and the more they tried to stay quiet, the louder the speculation became. By midday, a new layer to the story emerged. Someone claiming to be a courthouse clerk in Fulton County dropped a cryptic tweet. "I've seen some interesting marriage certificates in my time," paired with the side-eye emoji. No names, no receipts. But that was all it took for people to start digging. Amateur sleuths were pulling up public records, searching for any trace of Kirk's or Kendra's names on official documents. A few people claimed they'd found a match certificate dated 2 years ago, but the details were blurry, and skeptics were quick to say it could have been doctored. Still, the rumor had legs now, sprinting across the internet faster than anyone could catch it. Later that evening, the producers of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta were in crisis mode. Multiple cast members had been texting them all day, asking if cameras were going to roll on this. The showrunner allegedly told them, "Trust me, we're on it," which only made people hungrier for footage. Mendeecees, of course, seemed to be thriving in the chaos. He went live that night, casually cooking dinner while fans flooded the chat with questions. "Y'all really want me to spill the rest?" he teased, smirking at the camera. The chat blew up with yes and dropped the receipts, but he just shrugged. "All I must say is, don't trust everything you see on TV. And definitely, don't trust everybody smiling in your face." Then he ended the live without answering a single direct question. That same night, a leaked audio clip surfaced supposedly recorded at the party after Mendeecees had walked out. In it, you could hear Kirk's voice, low but urgent, saying, "We can't let this get out, Kendra. Not like this." Kendra's voice followed, shaky and almost panicked. "It's already out. They're not gonna stop." While some doubted the authenticity, others swore it was real, pointing to the tone and speech patterns as proof. By now, the drama had splintered the friend groups. Yandy was reportedly caught in the middle, trying to keep peace between Mendeecees and the rest of the cast. Carly Red was openly fanning the flames, telling anyone who would listen that she'd heard things about Kirk and Kendra for years. Even Scrappy was dropping more hints, saying on another live, "All I know is, if it ain't true, they'd be suing everybody by now." That one comment sent the conspiracy threads into overdrive because he wasn't wrong. If the marriage was just a rumor, why weren't Kirk and Kendra making a legal move to shut it down? The breaking point came 2 days later during a private event at a lounge in Buckhead. Multiple cast members were there, and according to eyewitnesses, Rashida finally confronted Kirk in public. The scene was messy, voices raised, hands gesturing wildly. "You couldn't even look me in the eye," she reportedly shouted. "You let him humiliate me." Kirk, in turn, fired back, "Ain't nobody humiliated you but yourself believing his lies." But then, just as things seemed to be calming down, Kendra tried to step in, and Rashida turned on her too. "Stay out of my marriage," she snapped before adding, "Or is it your marriage now?" That one line, it set the room on fire. People swear they saw Kendra's lip tremble like she was about to cry, but she pulled herself together, muttered something under her breath, and walked out. Mendeecees, naturally, wasn't even at the event, but somehow, his presence was everywhere. Every fight, every tense stare, every awkward silence traced back to that one sentence he dropped at the party: "You ain't gonna introduce your wife?" And the scariest part for Kirk and Kendra was knowing he'd hinted there was still more to tell. If this was just part one of his truth, what was coming next? Because the streets were talking, and the streets said the real scandal hadn't even been touched yet. By the third day, this wasn't just drama anymore, it was a full-blown circus, and everyone from Atlanta to New York had a front row seat. The story had outgrown the love and hip-hop fan base and spilled into mainstream gossip blogs, morning radio shows, and even a few entertainment TV segments. TMZ ran with it, calling it the marriage that's shaking reality TV, while the Shade Room posted a split image of Kirk and Kendra with the caption, "Would you keep your marriage a secret?" That post alone had over 80,000 comments in just a few hours, and the majority of them weren't kind. But while fans were still debating whether Mendeecees was telling the truth, the inner circle knew something nobody else did. There was another layer to the scandal, one that made the secret marriage claim look like the tip of the iceberg. Word was, this wasn't just about a hidden wedding. This was about why they'd kept it hidden. According to an anonymous source, someone who swore they were close to both Kirk and Kendra, the marriage had been strategically timed around a certain business deal Kirk had been chasing. Allegedly, Kendra's connections in the legal world had been key to securing it. An illegal marriage made the whole arrangement cleaner and more profitable. And here's where it got even messier. That same source claimed Kendra had made her own set of demands before agreeing to tie the knot. She supposedly wanted assurances about her role in Kirk's businesses and, more controversially, certain guarantees about how her image would be portrayed on camera. In other words, this wasn't a romantic union, it was a contract between two people who understood the power of appearances. Meanwhile, Mendeecees was still doing his part to keep the fire burning. At a charity basketball game that weekend, he made sure to sit front and center for the cameras, laughing and chatting with anyone who would listen. When a reporter half-jokingly asked if he had any regrets about spilling the tea, he smirked and said, "Regrets? Nah, I just hate liars. If you're gonna live in the spotlight, don't play everybody like they're stupid." The crowd ate it up. Back in Kirk and Kendra's world, the pressure was hitting a boiling point. Kirk's phone was lighting up, non-stop, from producers, from lawyers, from people he hadn't spoken to in years suddenly wanting to check in. Kendra had retreated from public appearances altogether, reportedly refusing to film until the dust settled. But that only fueled the suspicion. If it's all lies, why hide? One fan tweeted, racking up thousands of likes. Even Rashida, who was normally a master of handling scandal, was struggling to keep her composure. She was spotted at a high-end boutique looking visibly upset, and a bystander claimed she was overheard saying, "If I find out it's true, I'm done." Then came the night everything flipped. A private dinner was arranged by the show's producers to clear the air between some of the main players. The location was hush-hush, but someone leaked it anyway, and paparazzi staked out the parking lot. Inside, tensions were thick. Rashida sat across from Kirk, stone-faced, while Kendra sat at the far end of the table, scrolling her phone like she wasn't listening. Mendeecees showed up late, strolling in like he owned the place. "Y'all missed me?" he said, sliding into a seat and immediately reaching for the bread basket. The producers tried to steer the conversation toward resolution, but Mendeecees wasn't having it. "We can't fix nothing if people still," he said, his voice calm but pointed. Kirk groaned, rubbing his temples. "Here we go again." That's when Mendeecees dropped the second bomb, one that made the first seem almost tame. "Since you don't want to tell the truth," he said, looking straight at Kirk, "I guess I'll tell it for you. Y'all didn't just get married. You got married while he was still." He stopped himself, glanced at Kendra, then smirked. "You know what? Maybe that's a story for another time." The room erupted instantly. Rashida slammed her hand on the table. "While he was still WHAT?" she demanded. Kendra's face drained of color, and Kirk muttered something under his breath. But Mendeecees just leaned back, clearly enjoying the chaos. The producers, smelling ratings gold, didn't intervene. They let the tension ride as Rashida and Kirk went back and forth, their voices getting louder with each exchange. "You've been making me look crazy," she yelled. "You've been listening to gossip," he shot back. Mendeecees, unbothered, buttered a roll and tossed in little side comments like, "Funny how gossip always has a little truth in it." By the end of the night, nothing had been resolved. Kendra left early, brushing past cameras with her head down. Kirk followed a few minutes later, avoiding questions. Rashida stayed behind, talking quietly with Mendeecees, her expression somewhere between suspicion and reluctant belief. Outside, the paparazzi caught her leaving alone, and that photo Rashida in a sleek black dress, ice cold, jaw set, went viral. The caption someone gave it summed up the moment perfectly. "She knows something now, and it ain't good." And the worst part, whatever Mendeecees had hinted at, he still hadn't said it out loud. The mystery was only getting deeper, and everyone was bracing for the moment he finally spilled the rest. By the fourth day, it was clear this wasn't going to fade away like some quick weekend rumor. This had grown teeth, claws, and a whole life of its own. Every podcast that covered reality TV had made it their main topic, with panelists breaking down every clip, every facial expression, every single word Mendeecees had said. And then there were the fan detectives, the ones digging through old love and hip-hop episodes like they were crime scene footage. They were pulling timestamps, pointing out scenes where Kirk and Kendra exchanged knowing looks, or where Kendra mysteriously appeared in places she supposedly had no reason to be. Suddenly, years of small moments were being reinterpreted as clues to this supposed secret marriage. In the middle of this frenzy, someone leaked a set of grainy security camera stills that looked like they'd been taken inside a courthouse. The images showed a man and a woman, faces partially obscured, standing at a desk with papers in hand. The woman's hair and build looked suspiciously like Kendra's, and the man's posture was being compared to Kirk's in side-by-side Twitter posts. No one could confirm the authenticity, but that didn't stop it from spreading like wildfire. Within hours, Kirk and Kendra courthouse was trending. Meanwhile, the private lives of everyone involved were starting to unravel in real time. Rashida's closest friends said she'd barely been sleeping and was avoiding all joint appearances with Kirk. When a fan approached her at a boutique opening and asked if she was Team Mendeecees or Team Kirk, she gave a tight smile and said, "I'm Team Truth." That clip went viral instantly, sparking another wave of speculation that she believed Mendeecees more than she was letting on. Kirk, on the other hand, had decided to go on the offensive. He filmed a short video, sitting in his car, calling the rumors garbage and a distraction. But instead of calming the situation, the video only made things worse. Fans noticed he never actually denied being married to Kendra. He just kept saying, "It ain't what it looks like, and people need to mind their business." That vague language set the comment section on fire, with people writing things like, "If it wasn't true, you'd just say I'm not married to her and this man is guilty and for 1,000. Behind closed doors, producers were allegedly pressuring everyone to keep the drama alive for the cameras. They wanted a big group scene, the kind where everyone shows up, pretends to be civil, and then all hell breaks loose. And when they finally got their wish, it didn't disappoint. The filming took place at a lavish rented mansion in Buckhead, under the guise of a cast dinner. Everyone knew what it really was, an ambush of tension waiting to explode. Mendeecees showed up in a crisp white shirt, sunglasses on indoors, and that smug grin that said he knew exactly what he was walking into. Kirk arrived with Kendra on his arm, both looking overly polished, like they were trying to project a united front. Rashida walked in last, head held high, not even glancing in their direction. The dinner started off calm to calm. Polite small talk, fake smiles, cameras catching every twitch of an eyebrow. But it didn't take long for the producers to stir the pot. One of them asked, "So, should we toast to love?" That's when Mendeecees chuckled under his breath and muttered, "Some people here know a lot about secret love." The table went silent. Kendra's fork clinked against her plate. Kirk leaned forward, voice low but tight. "You need to stop playing with me, man." Mendeecees didn't even flinch. "I ain't playing. I'm telling the truth. You just mad 'cause it's finally catching up to you." Kendra jumped in, her voice sharper now. You don't know anything about us. You're just trying to stay relevant by dragging people. Mendeecees smirked, leaning back in his chair. If that's true, why are you so pressed? That was it. The dam broke. Rashida slammed her napkin on the table, turned to Kirk, and demanded, right here, right now, are you married to her? Yes or no? The air was so still you could hear the ice clinking in someone's drink. Kirk opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked at Kendra, then at Rashida, and finally muttered, this ain't the place for that conversation. The collective gasp from the table could have powered the city. Carly Red, of course, couldn't resist jumping in. Phew, baby. That's a yes if I ever heard one, she said, fanning herself theatrically. Kendra's eyes narrowed, and she shot back, mind your business, Carly. But Carly just laughed. It is my business when you've been sneaking around like you in a spy movie while your man's wife's been sitting at the same table as you. The shouting match that followed was pure chaos, voices overlapping, accusations flying, wine glasses nearly tipping. Mendeecees didn't raise his voice once. He just sat there, calm as ever, letting everyone else's tempers do the work. And then, when it seemed like the scene couldn't get any more heated, he looked directly at Rashida and said, ask him where he was the night before y'all's anniversary 2 years ago. The cameras caught every flicker of expression. On her face, confusion, realization, then pure, unfiltered anger. Oh, I'm gonna find out, she said, pushing back from the table and storming out. Kirk called after her, but she didn't look back. Kendra muttered something under her breath, and Kirk shot her a glare so sharp it could cut glass. By the end of the night, everyone left in separate cars. The mansion was quiet again, but the tension was thick enough to hang in the air for days. And somewhere out there, fans knew Mendeecees was still holding back the biggest part of the story, the piece that would turn the scandal from messy to legendary. If you thought the Buckhead Mansion dinner was explosive, what happened next made that look like a warm-up round. The very next morning, Rashida was spotted at a coffee shop with a man. Fans immediately recognized her longtime friend and occasional business advisor, Marcus. Cameras caught her looking tense, leaning across the table, whispering urgently. Eyewitnesses claimed she had her phone out, scrolling through something while Marcus kept shaking his head. One customer, who claimed they were sitting close enough to overhear, posted online, she said the words marriage certificate twice and then said 2 years. I swear, y'all, she is pissed. That one post spread like wildfire because suddenly the timeline was starting to make sense for the fan detectives. 2 years ago, Kirk and Kendra had mysteriously disappeared from social media for almost 3 weeks, right around the time Kirk told viewers he had been traveling for business. Now, the theory was that this business trip had been a courthouse trip, and Rashida was only just now putting the pieces together. While Rashida was on her fact-finding mission, Kirk was busy doing damage control, or at least his version of it. He went live on Instagram, clearly agitated, pacing back and forth in what looked like his garage. Man, y'all gotta stop believing everything you hear, he said, running a hand over his head. This whole thing is getting blown way out of proportion. People trying to create drama where there's none. I'm good. My family's good. We just focusing on us. But again, and fans were quick to point this out, he never said, I'm not married to Kendra. Meanwhile, Kendra herself had gone silent, but her close friend Jasmine decided to speak up on her behalf. On a live stream, Jasmine claimed that Kendra was devastated by the situation and never meant for things to come out this way. That one phrase alone sent fans spiraling because it sounded a lot like confirmation. If there was nothing to hide, why would Kendra be devastated about the truth coming out? And then, as if on cue, Mendeecees popped back into the spotlight. He posted a cryptic video of himself in a car, looking dead into the camera, saying, secrets always come out. Some people better hope their paperwork don't leak. That wasn't no explanation. No names. Just those words. But it was enough to reignite the frenzy. Fans flooded the comments with demands for receipts, and gossip pages reposted the clip with captions like, is Mendeecees about to drop proof? 2 nights later, filming resumed, this time for a sit-down between Mendeecees, Rashida, and a producer who looked like they were bracing for a hurricane. The cameras rolled as Rashida laid it out. "If you know something, just tell me. I'm tired of guessing. I'm tired of the games. Either you're lying for clout, or you're telling me my husband's been lying to my face for years." Mendeecees took a long pause, then leaned forward. "I'm telling you the truth. And the truth is, they've been married. They got married while you was still celebrating your anniversary, thinking everything was solid. He told people it was a business move, but I saw the papers. And you wanna know the craziest part? You know who signed as a witness?" He stopped, watching her reaction. "His cousin, the same one that was at y'all's vow renewal smiling. In your face." Rashida's eyes widened, and for a moment, she just sat there processing. "That's disgusting," she finally said, her voice low but steady. "And you're saying you can prove it?" Mendeecees nodded slowly. "If I wanted to, yeah. But I think you already know deep down." The tension was so thick, even the producer looked uncomfortable. But Rashida didn't cry, didn't yell. She just stood up, grabbed her purse, and said, "Then I guess I know what I need to do next." She walked out, leaving Mendeecees sitting there with a look that was equal parts satisfaction and sympathy. The very next scene filmed later that night was pure chaos. Kirk showing up at Rashida's boutique unannounced, demanding they talk like adults. Cameras captured every second as she stood her ground. "You had 2 years to talk like an adult," she snapped. "Now you want to talk cause everybody knows? Nah, that's not how this works." Kirk insisted she was overreacting, that Mendeecees was twisting the truth. "So what's the truth, Kirk?" She shot back. "Say it right now. Are you married to her or not?" He froze. You could see the gears turning in his head, the desperate search for the right words. And just when it looked like he might finally answer, his phone rang. He glanced at it, Kendra's name flashing on the screen, and that was it. Rashida grabbed her keys and walked out, leaving him standing there alone, phone still buzzing in his hand. The episode ended on that cliffhanger, but word from the set was that the real fireworks were still coming, because whatever Kendra had to say on that call, it was going to blow the whole thing wide open. That phone call from Kendra was the match to the gasoline everyone had been pouring for weeks. According to crew members who couldn't keep their mouths shut, what she said to Kirk wasn't just emotional, it was nuclear. When Kirk answered, his voice was low, like he was trying not to let the cameras hear. But the mix got every word anyway. "You need to come home right now," Kendra said, her voice trembling but sharp. "Somebody been talking to my family. They know, and they're talking about going public." Kirk's jaw tightened, and you could see the panic flicker in his eyes. "Who?" he asked. "Who told them?" There was a pause. Then Kendra hit him with it. "It's your cousin, the same one who signed the papers." That was the moment Kirk's whole expression changed. He glanced around, clearly aware the cameras were still rolling, then muttered, "I'm on my way," and stormed out of the boutique without another word to Rashida. Producers tried to follow him, but he told them to back off, slamming his car door and peeling out of the parking lot. Meanwhile, Rashida was inside, still standing behind the counter, her hands gripping it so tightly her knuckles were white. "You see that?" she said to the nearest producer. He didn't even deny it. He ran. "That's your proof right there." By the next morning, social media had exploded again, this time with screenshots of text messages allegedly between Kendra and one of her family members. The messages were a messy mix of accusations and half confessions, but the main takeaway was that someone in Kendra's own family had known about the marriage from the start. They had stayed quiet out of loyalty. Until now. One of the texts read, "You've been playing with fire for too long. You knew what this would do to her, and you didn't care." Fans were eating it up, but the bigger bombshell came later. That day, when a gossip blogger dropped what they claimed was the actual marriage license. It was a blurry, crooked photo clearly taken on the sly, but the names Kirk Frost and Kendra Robinson were visible, along with a date that matched the exact window of Kirk's so-called business trip. The witness signature? None other than his cousin's. It was chaos. Rashida's name trended alongside #secretmarriage for hours. Supporters flooded her Instagram with messages of sympathy, while others demanded she leave him for good. Kirk posted nothing, while Kendra remained silent, which only fueled the speculation further. That night, filming resumed at a different location, this time at Mendeecees' house. He was sitting outside on his patio, sipping a drink, when the producer asked if he'd seen the leaked license. "Yeah, I seen it," he said with a smirk. "Guess the truth really do set you free, huh?" He claimed he hadn't been the one to leak it, but he didn't exactly sound convincing. "Look, I didn't need to post it. I knew once people started digging, it was only a matter of time." Then, in the middle of the conversation, Yendi walked in. She gave Mendeecees that look, the one only a spouse can give when they know. "You've been stirring the pot too much. You happy now?" she asked, sitting down next to him. "You just blew up an entire marriage. For what?" Mendeecees shrugged. "For the truth. People out here lying, thinking they untouchable. That ain't right." But Yendi wasn't having it. "You also just dragged a woman who didn't even deserve it like that. Rashida's hurt. Kirk's a mess. And Kendra, well, you know, she's not gonna take this lying down." And right on cue, the next filming day proved Yendi right. The network set up a mediated conversation at a neutral location between Kendra and Rashida. The two women walked in from opposite sides of the room, eyes locked but not speaking. The mediator tried to start with pleasantries, but Rashida cut straight to it. "Why? Why would you do this to me?" Kendra's voice was surprisingly calm. "It wasn't about you. It was about me and him. We made a choice for us. That choice destroyed my marriage," Rashida shot back. "Or maybe it didn't. Maybe my marriage was already over and I just didn't know it." That was electric. Kendra insisted the marriage had been strategic, some vague reference to legal and financial reasons, but the more she explained, the less it sounded like strategy and the more it sounded like betrayal. Rashida's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't let them fall. "You sat across from me at dinners. You smiled in my face. And all that time, you were wearing his ring." Kendra didn't deny it. She just said softly, "You were never supposed to find out like this." The conversation ended with no resolution. Rashida walked out first, Kendra staring after her with an unreadable expression. But the real drama was still brewing, because while the women were having that tense sit-down, Kirk was at his cousin's house, trying to fix the leak. According to an onlooker, the argument between Kirk and his cousin was loud enough for the neighbors to hear. Kirk accused him of selling out the family. The cousin shot back that Kirk had put him in the middle of a mess he never wanted. The shouting went on for nearly 20 minutes before Kirk stormed out, slamming the door so hard the porch light shook. By the end of the week, there was no going back. The marriage license was everywhere. The cousin was refusing to change his story, and Rashida had quietly unfollowed Kirk on Instagram. And yet, everyone knew the season wasn't over, which meant there was still one last confrontation coming, and this time, all three of them would be in the same room. And just like that, what started as a whisper turned into the loudest, messiest scandal the love and hip-hop world has seen in years, and somehow, it still feels like we've only scratched the surface. We've got a confirmed marriage license, a cousin flipping the script, Kendra holding her ground, Kirk dodging every direct question, and Rashida standing in the middle of the storm, deciding whether to rebuild or walk away for good. Fans are split right down the middle, some calling this the ultimate betrayal, others saying it's all part of the hustle. But one thing's for sure, nothing about this will be forgotten anytime soon. And here's the real question that's keeping everybody up at night. If they've been hiding this for 2 years, what else have they been keeping from us? Is there another player in this game we haven't even met yet? Could this strategic marriage have been a move for something bigger, money, power, or maybe even revenge? We'll just have to wait and see how far this rabbit hole goes. Now it's your turn. I want to hear from you. Was Mendeecees right to blow the lid off this secret, or should he have kept quiet? Is Kirk and Kendra's strategic marriage a betrayal or just business? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now and tell me which side you're on. And don't forget, hit that like button if you're as shook as we are, subscribe so you don't miss the next twist in this wild saga, and ring that notification bell, because when the next bomb drops, you're gonna want to be here to see it first. Trust me, this story is far from over.